All right, I had a couple things I wanted to talk about, and I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to go with any of the three of them, but to me, I was thinking they're kind of related. Okay, first of all, Jenny McDermott had a hangout, and I'll put a link in that with some people, some trolls from Baphomet, and that was very interesting and really, really made me realize just how much people don't get trolls. Um, uh, Now they talked about one thing is third-party trolling, which is the trolls on Baphomet that were sending pizzas, or some of them were claiming and maybe have. You never know because their whole story is not sincerity and incredulity, not believing everything and not being sensitive, but of swatting people, which is where you call the police or SWAT teams or whatever you can, you know, ambulance rescue services, order pizzas, this kind of thing. Now, the Baphomet guys, Baphomet being a channel there, which also Jenny doesn't really seem to understand what the channel is, but neither do the people that use the channel. The people in the channel don't see themselves as a community, but in reality, they are a community kind of individuals, more so than a lot of communities, but definitely still a community. But so these are the kinds of people that are, you know, Gary had all of those problems and stuff. I mean, it's the same old thing. It really does happen in the pizzas and everything else. Now, this is third-party trolling because these Baphomet guys are pointing out they don't give a fuck about Gamergate or Thunderfoot or any of that. What it is it's open season. It's kind of like when criminals, let's say young thugs, uh, bandying about town around the city, and sometimes they pick on homeless people. They beat homeless people up. They take whatever little they have, not because they have anything to take, but because they're easy victims. It's open season on them. You had bum fights and people pay, homeless people to fight each other and whatnot. And it's because it's open season on those guys, right? There's a class of people that gets open seasoned. Now, in the real world, these village idiots upon which it is open season, and they're called village idiots because they're homeless, right? That's an old word for homeless. And uh, their, society itself has a certain limited number of things, unwed mothers and women of ill repute, prostitutes. Open season is the attitude. Now online, the trolls can look for lulz, cows, however they want, and it's open season way more. The season is almost basically always open. But the trolls, these third-party trolls that come in, and if they do have any values, it's in every direction. So, it doesn't really matter. They're looking for an open season. And, but the other thing that they need, since it really can be open season on anybody arbitrarily, the reason that they look for isn't really what the person has done. It's how manipulative, how much of a puppet that person can be made. The lulz, cow milking enjoyment for these kids is that, and I understand this because the hacker culture only went out into the regular people and the teen, some of the teens, in the 80s. I was part of that culture as it bled out of this rarefied, Stanford and Silicon Valley. And this ethos has come from that. It's an underground disrespect for all norms, and when one of these guys is like joking about, well, that's not how we feel. Oh, except for the part about hating niggers. We hate them. And she didn't get that. And he even pushed his point in a, I mean, they were very honest for trolls. It was interesting. If you understand how trolls speak, like he said, he was at 3 he learned this, and then later he said he was born. What he should explain, though, is that he was born at 6 with no eyes. And he repeated that several times as if to emphasize the absurdity of just believing everything he says. If someone like that says that you might think, well, if he would say that, obviously has no respect for African American experience, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't have that respect per se. It means he has a total insensitivity, or he has a value system that values uh, not being sensitive. Not being sensitive when you say something to him, and not being sensitive to you, or even trying to provoke your sensitivities, or, yes, actually, definitely trying to provoke your sensitivities. Like, if you have something that when you hear it, let's say someone knows you're a feminist, and so they say to you, go get me a sandwich. And you know that they've said that to piss you off. Yet you still think, yeah, but that's too much. And so you go on a rant about, don't say that to me. That's what trolls are looking for. If they could push a button and get a recording, they'll watch that shit all fucking day long. They just love that. Now, what about trolls that hassle people in real life? Well, that's an extra level. That is in the level of an emotional disturbance. Asking for attention, but it still comes from this basically also unhealthy wanting to manipulate other people. Now, I've said this story before, but when I was in junior high school, I had a really terrible experience. I went into class, and it was, I think, the first day, and there was a kid there, and he looked a little bit Down syndrome-y, but he, functional, and he was in the regular, I think was freshman high school, or it would have been sophomore, because I had a 3-year high school. And other kids were throwing coins. And this kid would, like, obsessively, compulsively, like, he would have to chase that coin. He would go and get that coin, and he'd go back to his thing. And it was happening several times. He was, like, crying, but he was collecting these coins. He was also like, oh, because he knew it was a compulsive behavior. You could tell he knew how cruel it was. And it was just terrible. And I was frozen. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I'd never seen anything like it. And this was in Colorado. And, after the class, I mean, I really wish I would have said something right then. It only went a couple minutes. The teacher came. And then when we left class, I befriended the guy, and he didn't last long at school. He disappeared a couple weeks later. But, and again, that's that associative logic. I was a new kid at this school. This was like, a new thing to me, and the new school. And, I knew it would associate me in a certain way to befriend this guy who it had been open season on, but fuck that. The outsiders much prefer them. And, just to make him feel like not everybody in the world wants to troll you and push your buttons and manipulate your weaknesses. And if you're really concerned for people's weakness, I mean, there's better ways to help train people. And this is one reason I like this kind of art. I like Banksy, that I consider culture hacking, because it's a little mix of both. It's like, yeah, you get in people's face, but you do it in a pie throwing way where it really isn't threatening, right? You can help. There's good-natured ways to push people's buttons in order to show those people that they've got those buttons, and maybe they should work on that. Because I do agree with this sentiment. It's an information wants to be free culture kind of sentiment, that you really shouldn't have any of these things where someone could just say something to you, like, if someone insults your mother, you've got to fight him. You should not be so easy to control in this world, because that is how you're being controlled. Okay, so the troll phenomenon, people like Baphomet, they understand, I think, to picture some of what I'm saying here. However, that's not why they're in it. They're in it for emotionally depraved reasons, basically. And especially if they take it into the real world, but also just if they do it with, comments. And people might not tell you, but there's plenty of people that have gone through some phase of doing this and just getting their anger, angst out by trolling, by talking to people that you know you're going to get a particular response. And so she talked to these people. I don't think she really understood them. I told her I thought it was probably ill-advised, and I think it was, but I certainly found it interesting. And in my own case, I have talked to several trolls, sometimes getting very deep into actual conversations and finding out what the real person is about. It's always psychological, but there is also an ethos and a character there. But now the bottom line of this, as far as Laughing Witch and everything, is to see that these are third-party trolls. You know, some of them might care about Gamergate, some of the other ones, but like the Baphomet end is just like, it's open season. Somebody's easy to push their buttons. Boom, you do it in every way and watch them make noise. Now, Laughing Witch is going to keep making the noise. She can point to the press, look what's happening, and it's actually, I mean, right now it's playing into her hand. If she wants to be an activist about online attacks, the longer this goes on, the more her narrative and platform is invented for her, right? But the Baphomet people have no reason to stop that, because that in itself is also funny to them, right? So at the point at which it gets out of control and starts to look bad for Thunderfoot, they don't give a fuck. I mean, a lot of people were talking about how, like, there's this troll wiki, Encyclopedia Dramatica, kind of a Lulz Cowie, YouTube oriented, as far as I know, YouTube wiki, or maybe more. And you know, Laughing Witch, you've got a page now. It's like, well, yeah, Thunderfoot's had a page forever, though, and it says all the shit on him too. So it's like, people that are cited in this don't get that the Baphomet people will attack an individual, but they're not actually cited. They don't really care about it. The sides. That's not the universe that they're working in. It's your psychological vulnerability that you can be played like a puppet, that somebody can say this and you go, what? I'm not gay. Or, oh, I don't care, I'm fat. Oh, weight is fat shame. Weight of this shame. They just love hearing that stuff. Anything you could say to them that they already knew was coming is like, that's what they're laughing about. So you should keep that in mind. Because the less predictable you are, the higher and higher quality of troll it takes to get to you. You know, which is why I've talked to some of my trolls, because sometimes I weed out a troll of such high quality. It turns out they're a latent artist, they're a performance artist, they're an Andy Kaufman. Their malignancy is a result of an art that they have to do compulsively. And then I push their buttons and they go, oh my God, you trolled me. And then we get over it. But not always them. All right, now this Paris thing, it's terrible. I haven't wanted to say for years, because I've wondered, and seriously, I don't want to give ideas to any almost said trolls, to terrorists or anybody with crazy ideas, right? But I like writing stories. Everybody imagines this stuff. And I think a lot of people have had ideas of like, what if the terrorists did this? And it's not something you really want to share. You know, or when we had that sniper guy that was lurking in the back of his car to be a sniper. And that was like, would a terrorist do that? No, they don't do things quite as terrifying as that. They kind of want these big prizes, and it's been kind of weird. So now this Paris attack is more like, you know, it's what you do. Like if you had 20 guys did 9/11, sure, they took down the tower. That was far from certain. What if you have 20 guys willing to die, right? Because 20 guys could take over the subways, make it impossible to ride a subway anywhere and live in there for months. If you did not want to survive, you know what I mean? Like, it's easy to take siege to a building. 20 guys is incredibly powerful. 20 armed guys can take a whole giant building and a whole floor of a building. They can hold out for a long time. And the problem is, yeah, you're going to go to jail or get killed. But if you're ready for that, then yeah, this kind of mayhem, it doesn't take that many people. So this is a dangerous kind of turn in affairs as we breed, kind of like by the improper use of antibiotics, the indiscriminate use of violence, we have bred worse and worse kinds of a terrorist. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, where we're building the kind of terrorists that you'd have in, say, the film Brazil. And I noticed these trolls are similar to the terrorists in the sense that they're trying to provoke a puppet reaction. It's like, okay, we'll scream Allahu Akbar and kill all these people in soft targets. Then some people will hate, Middle Easterners more, and these refugees will be hated. And so then they'll be treated worse. And then the kids that grow up being treated worse, like, what's going on? Why am I growing up this way? They become ripe to join our side and do more of the damage. So the more chaos we create, well, a chaotic situation is exactly the situation in which warlords rise to the top. And as I was saying to Vic, it didn't seem to get this yet, Vic. Like in a case like Iraq or ISIS, it doesn't matter what Sam Harris it could interview the leaders of ISIS and say, see, they're really that crazy. Why are they in positions of power? Only chaotic, anarchistic situations allow that and promote the warlord to get to the top of the power. We have people like that in our country. We all know we do. But at worst, they're limited to individual serial killing situations, or they don't even do that, because in a successful situation, they're certainly not going to rise to the top of some, of the Chamber of Commerce or something. So they just can't rise to the top. The situations that allow for schizophrenic people with crazy religious ideas to rise to the top and command tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, well, that's post-war occupation and anarchy and the breakdown of civic society. All right. And that's what the terrorists want to have happen. Right. And that's the psychology of trolls. And do they ever want to stabilize things? No, but sometimes they get control. And if they're in control long enough, some grandchild of theirs, will start to stabilize, because it's a natural situation that humans don't really want this chaos all the time. We're being kept in a state of chaos by people that know how to profit from chaos, right? And it's not just the terrorists, it's some really wealthy, powerful people that also know how to profit from chaos, but it can't get too out of control for them. It can't get so out of control that all of their money can be seized, but it could get pretty damn out of control in limited areas. They could start a war in Iraq, make shit tons of money off of it, and then make money giving loans to rebuild refineries. It's just like, yeah, they make it on both sides. If everything falls to hell, they could be in danger, but that's not really where their head is at the moment. And the people that are just terrorists and working class criminal anger class, sure, I'm a fundamentalist, sounds good. Those people, they just innately understand that this chaos is a situation in which they can prosper, and they do. So it's not like I believe in Iraq, it's pretty clear that we should have done what we did in Germany and Japan, where you have Iraqi companies rebuild Iraq. I mean, Mercedes, Porsche, VW, these were all involved in the Nazis, Subaru. These companies were involved in the war effort of their country. When you let them rebuild the country, it's not like you're empowering the people that caused the war. No, you end up empowering other people that don't want to cause war, people that like rebuilding things, and you change the organization, right? If you exclude the organization and say, Mercedes, you're not going to be able to build anything, then you send a bunch of engineers off to build weapons to attack you. I mean, no, we should have used Iraqi engineering companies and rebuilt that to rebuild Iraq, and then we wouldn't have this kind of a chaos, because that's just how it works. And you could look at history. You don't think so? It's not a conspiracy theory, and I don't have to fucking prove it to anybody. It's totally obvious. I'm just telling you what's already obvious, okay? If you want to disagree with it, feel free to disagree with it. But to me, it's obvious that warlords types of people and schizophrenic, crazy obsessed people benefit from chaotic situations. Not all of them, but I mean, a few of them will be able to take advantage of a situation like that. And the other thing is, I watched the debate. So they changed it to be about the Paris stuff, and I think that was just as well. One thing I wanted to say that I thought was interesting is that, so Bernie pulled it out personal, like, come on, I think these banks are giving Hillary money for a reason. You think they're stupid? I don't think so. They probably know what they're doing. And she said, well, you're maligning my character. And I was thinking, well, there's a third option. The third option is you don't do what the Hillary, you don't do what the banks want because they call you up and tell you how to vote. You could possibly, and evidently, if you're an honest person, just happen to agree with what they think should happen. You on your own are thinking that what should happen is what they think should happen. And so maybe that's the situation. Maybe all the politicians, totally honest, they really are only taking money from people that already agreed with them. It's not a better situation for us. All right, bye.